Before the story begins, imagine a little girl, too weak to run, too sick to play, and a police dog, trained for danger, but now facing the hardest mission of all, to give her something to live for. If this story stirs something in your heart, like this video to honor real heroes with wagging tails, share it with someone who believes hope comes in unexpected forms. Comment below if a dog has ever changed your life, and subscribe for more emotional true stories of courage, healing, and second chances. Because sometimes the bravest rescues don't happen in the field. They happen in the quiet room where a child refuses to smile. The hospital hallway smelled like bleach and silence. Machines beeped. Fluorescent lights hummed above rows of closed doors. Behind one of them, a little girl lay curled beneath a blanket covered in stars. Her name was Sophie, 7 years old, stage 4 leukemia, on her 4th round of chemo, and on her 3rd week of refusing to speak. She wasn't angry. She was just tired. Too tired to smile. Too tired to answer when her mom whispered, "Please, just open your eyes." Doctors tried everything. Therapists, musicians, even a clown with squeaky shoes. Nothing. Until Officer Ruiz walked in, and behind him padded something different. Paws on tile, a low, panting breath, eyes sharp with purpose. "This is Valor," Ruiz said. "He's a retired police dog, trained for tracking, protection, and now comfort." Sophie didn't react until Valor sat down, didn't bark, didn't move. He simply stayed. And after a minute, a tiny hand reached from beneath the blanket and rested on his fur. Because sometimes healing doesn't start with medicine. It starts with presence. Child refuses to smile. Before the hospital, Sophie loved clouds, not drawing them, watching them. She'd lie on the roof of her dad's truck and name their shapes. Dragons, teacups, whales with wings. Then came the fevers, the bruises, the blood tests. The word leukemia became part of every conversation. The truck ride stopped. The clouds faded behind windows sealed shut. Sophie tried to be brave at first. She smiled for her parents, laughed at the nurses' balloon animals, even painted her IV pole bright yellow. But round after round, her strength thinned, hair fell, appetite disappeared, smiles turned into silence. One morning, she woke up and didn't speak, not to her mom, not to her teddy bear, not even when her dad showed her a picture of the sky outside. "She's shutting down emotionally," the doctor said. "We need to give her something that isn't medicine." But Sophie didn't want more activities, more distractions. She didn't want to pretend. She wanted to feel safe, like something in the world wasn't leaving her. Valor used to run toward danger. Explosives, gunshots, collapsed buildings. He wasn't just a police dog. He was the police dog. 3 commendations, countless missions. He'd saved lives, found missing children, stopped armed men with nothing but a bark and a stare. But after his handler, Officer Tyler, was killed in a raid, Valor stopped working. He didn't lash out. He didn't run. He simply sat beside Tyler's locker for 3 days, wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. When the department tried to reassign him, he refused every command. He was medically retired and sent to a quiet foster home. There, he stayed still for months, until Officer Ruiz, a young K-9 officer in training, saw his record and requested him. "I don't need him for the street," he said. "I need him for people." Valor didn't react much, but when they entered the children's hospital for the first time, he stopped in the hallway outside Sophie's room, his ears lifted, his body stilled, like something had pulled him there. And when Ruiz opened the door, Valor didn't wait. He chose. Sophie hadn't spoken in 21 days. Nurses whispered. Doctors monitored. Her parents tried not to cry in front of her. And then the door opened. No beeping machines, no cheerful "good morning," just paws on tile. Sophie peeked from beneath her blanket. The dog didn't bark, didn't jump, didn't act like the therapy animals they brought before. He sat like stone, like patience itself. She watched him, waited for him to move. He didn't. Instead, he looked right at her, not through her, not like she was sick or sad, just seen. Her fingers crept from under the blanket, trembled, paused, then rested, lightly, shakily, on the top of his head. Valor didn't flinch. He leaned into her touch, and for the first time in 3 weeks, Sophie blinked twice and whispered, "Hi." 1 syllable, just breath. But every adult in the room froze. And Valor, he just lowered his head into her lap, like that tiny word was what he'd been waiting to hear. After Valor's first visit, something shifted. Sophie asked if he could come back. Not out loud. She pointed to the door, then to his photo on the nurse's clipboard. The next day, he came again. This time, she was sitting up. On the 3rd day, she laughed. Not loud, not long, but enough that her mother dropped her coffee in shock. Sophie began brushing his fur slowly, small strokes with her fragile fingers. She whispered to him at night, words no one else could hear, not even her doctors. And Valor? He listened like every syllable was sacred. When she felt nauseous, he placed his head across her lap. When she couldn't sleep, he lay beside the bed, matching his breath to hers. Nurses said, "We've never seen her this calm before a procedure." Doctors said, "Her vitals stabilize when the dog's around." But Sophie said nothing. She just reached. For him, every single time. And in her sketchbook, where once there were gray clouds and blank pages, now there was color, dogs, stars, a girl with no hair, smiling beside a brown-eyed German shepherd with a badge around his neck. Dr. Jensen had been treating Sophie for 6 months, seen her through blood transfusions, spinal taps, and soul-crushing silences. But now, he walked into a room and found her sitting cross-legged on the floor, placing Valor's badge gently onto her teddy bear. "He said I could borrow it," she whispered. The doctor knelt, smiling. He trusts you. She nodded, serious. He stays when it hurts. Later that week, Officer Ruiz met Sophie's mom in the hallway. Valor used to track armed suspects. Now he won't leave her side. Her mom's eyes filled. She told me he knows where the pain is, even when she can't say it. Ruiz handed her a form. I pulled every string I could. The department approved it. We can officially assign Valor as Sophie's long-term therapy dog. The mother covered her mouth. But he was trained for danger. He still is, Ruiz said. But now the danger is smaller, quieter, and maybe more important. Back in her room, Sophie drew another picture. A hospital room, a bed, a shadow of a dog curled beneath it. She labeled it with 3 words, her biggest sentence yet. He's my hero. It started with a nosebleed, small, common, nothing unusual, until Sophie fainted in the middle of a bedtime story. Alarms went off, nurses rushed in, doctors called for immediate transfusion. Her mother screamed. Ruiz tried to hold her steady. Valor. He moved, not toward the chaos, but toward her. As the team worked, Valor jumped onto the hospital bed, not out of panic, out of purpose. He lay beside her body, curled against her chest, pressed his head into the crook of her neck. Her oxygen dropped. Her heart rate slowed, but Valor didn't move. He matched her breath, even as it faltered, even as her lips turned pale. A nurse moved to push him off, but Ruiz stopped her. Leave him. He's the reason she's still fighting. The room blurred with voices and rushing feet, but at the center, a child and a dog, heart to heart. And when Sophie finally gasped, shallow but real, Valor licked her cheek once and laid his head down again. Because sometimes courage doesn't bark, it waits. The next morning, sunlight filtered softly through the blinds. Machines still beeped, but their rhythm was steady now, like a lullaby. Sophie stirred first, then opened her eyes. She didn't speak. She just looked around. And when she saw Valor still curled beside her, she smiled. Her mom wept silently from the corner of the room. Ruiz stood beside her, hand on her shoulder. He didn't move all night, he whispered. Dr. Jensen entered with cautious hope. Her vitals are stabilizing. That was the worst of it, and she pushed through. Sophie reached for her sketchbook. She drew one big shape, 2 small ones beneath it, then, in shaky block letters, wrote, "We stay." Later that day, the hospital staff held a small ceremony. They gave Valor an honorary badge, Canine Valor, Unit, Heartbeat. The children's wing clapped and laughed. Sophie stood beside him, holding his leash for the first time. She didn't say much, but her presence, strong, quiet, certain, said everything. That night, she didn't ask for lullabies. She fell asleep with one hand on Valor's back, and a new drawing tucked under her pillow, a heart with 4 paws. Sophie's story spread through the hospital like sunlight through curtains. Other patients began requesting Valor visits. Children too weak to smile would reach for his fur. Teens in wheelchairs wheeled themselves closer just to sit in silence with him. But it was Sophie who led the way. She started reading picture books to younger kids in the common room. Valor lay beside her, head resting on his paws, eyes closed but alert. Doctors noticed something more powerful than charts: laughter. Nurses started calling her Chief of Smiles. She wore the title with pride, taped it to her IV pole in glitter letters. One afternoon, a boy named Theo, newly diagnosed and terrified, refused to speak to anyone. Sophie didn't push. She sat beside his bed. Valor laid at her feet. After 10 long minutes, Theo whispered, "Does he know I'm scared?" Sophie smiled softly. "He always knows." The next day, Theo asked if Valor could sleep in his room too. And Sophie, she smiled again. "Only if you promise to draw him a badge." Sophie didn't ring the end of treatment bell with a crowd cheering. She did it quietly, with one hand on Valor's leash, and the other gripping the rope. The bell echoed through the hallway, clear, bright, brave. Everyone clapped. Sophie didn't cry. She turned to Valor and whispered, "We did it." She no longer needed constant monitoring. Her room became a mural of drawings, every single one featuring him. Her favorite? A picture of herself in a superhero cape, Valor beside her, tail mid-wag, badge shining. She titled it, "I Didn't Fight Alone." Her mom framed it. Sophie started speaking more, not just to Valor, but to nurses, to friends, to frightened children who'd just arrived. At the hospital fair, she led Valor through an obstacle course, slow, steady, proud. A reporter asked, "What did the dog teach you?" Sophie looked at the camera. "That you don't have to be strong every day. You just have to stay. Some warriors wear uniforms, some wear hospital gowns, and some walk on 4 legs with a badge no one sees, but everyone feels." Valor didn't cure Sophie's cancer. He didn't chase away the pain. He simply stayed. In the moments when her body was weak, when her voice was gone, he reminded her she was still here, still worth fighting for, still whole. And Sophie, she didn't survive because she was fearless. She survived because someone showed up and never walked away. Because sometimes healing begins not with medicine, but with something quiet, something loyal, something that doesn't ask questions, just stays.